You're listening to a Brooklyn Nets episode of the Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the team's latest goings-on as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, Nets fans! Welcome to my last Brooklyn Nets show of the season here on the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And with the regular season over, there's no point to doing more Brooklyn Nets shows. The next Nets show you get from me is going to be an off-season preview. You'll probably get that in 2 months. The same thing holds for the New York Islanders. I don't know about the 2 months, but that will be the next Islanders show you get. But we're here to talk about the Nets. It looked a little dicey a couple weeks ago. They had lost 4 straight. Granted, 3 of those were really close games, but still, they lost. They let the Bucks back into the fight for the 2 seed. It basically negated any chance they had of getting the 1 seed. It was tough. But then something interesting happened. The second half of the Nuggets game, the Nets were down 15. They trailed by as much as 21 in that game. I turned it off. I wanted to watch Elon Musk host Saturday Night Live. I'm checking the score app, and I see that the Nets are fighting back. Okay, they're keeping it close. Then the next thing I know, they end up winning by 6. As cliche as it sounds, this team is never going to keel over and die. It has moments where reality hits them and they know they need to change things. It happened earlier in the season when they got destroyed by the Pistons. At that point in time, they had lost 3 straight. They really weren't playing great basketball. After that loss, though, they flipped a switch. They went undefeated on their West Coast trip. They went on really long win streaks. I mean, for a period of time, they were the 1 seed. Now they're the 2 seed, which means they'll face the... We don't know yet. We know that they'll face either the Wizards or the Celtics. Whoever wins that game gets the privilege of losing to the Nets in the first round. I'll say this, I do think it's going to be the Celtics, but I really don't have a preference. Beal and Westbrook do scare me. They are going to go off, although Harden will cancel Westbrook out a little bit. Westbrook's a dog when it comes to getting rebounds and dropping dimes. Harden's the same thing. The 2 of them play a similar game. Harden's a million times better, but Westbrook is the one who averaged a triple-double yet again and now has the record for most triple-doubles in a career. It's going to be tough. I don't like Westbrook because you can't win with him. So from that end of things, maybe I'd rather face the Wizards, but Bradley Beal is gonna go off. He's gonna drop like 35 points every game. I don't know if I want to face him. Would I rather face the Celtics? A team with no Jaylen Brown? Well, realize they still have Jason Tatum. They still have Kemba Walker. They still have Marcus Smart. Neither team's going to be a cakewalk, but you usually don't get cakewalks in the playoffs. I can't say you never get cakewalks. Sometimes you do. The Nets won't have that luxury. But the one thing that kind of plays in their favor with being the 2 seed, they'll know before the Sixers who they're facing. I think there's something to that. The Nets get 2 extra days of preparing for a specific opponent than the Sixers do. I think that's a silver lining to not getting the 1 seed. Does it matter at the end of the day? Probably not. I think regardless, the Sixers will advance. Same thing with the Nets. But I do think it's noteworthy. And also I'll say this. What's the difference between the 1 and the 2 seed? Home court in the Eastern Conference Finals. You want to tell me an easier path to get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Hey, the Knicks are a really good team. As much as it kills me to say that, they're a really good team. There's a part of me that would rather face the Bucks. I don't care that the Bucks beat the Nets twice at the end of the season. James Harden didn't play in those games. I said this at the time. What those losses proved is that with James Harden in the lineup, the Nets win. Those were close losses. Harden would have been the difference. And the Knicks, what's the one thing that stops a great offense? A great defense. The Nets swept the Knicks this year. I get that. And it would be nice to see New York going nuts. The Nets and Knicks haven't played each other in the NBA playoffs since 2004 when the Nets swept the Knicks. It's been a while. It's been 17 years. So while it would have been nice to get that, there is a part of me that would rather face the Bucks. Look, I think the Nets will beat the Bucks. And if they end up going against the Knicks, they'll beat them too. But going back to the home court advantage end of things, that's lessened this year by there not being full capacity in arenas. I don't know what the exact limit is going to be for the Wells Fargo Arena when the Eastern Conference Finals rolls around. I think that's what we're going to end up getting, a 76ers Nets Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know what Governor Wolf is going to do. I don't know what Governor Cuomo's going to do. But home court advantage, having a sold-out crowd of your fans supporting you, isn't going to be as impactful because there are less butts in the seats. There will be less noise being made. You'll be able to hear yourself think. Does that cut both ways? Yeah, the Sixers are going to have less fans and the Nets are going to have less fans. I get that. But home court advantage this year means less than ever. Also, Philadelphia is close enough to Brooklyn that some Nets fans will make that trip. Especially if they live in Jersey. The amount of Nets fans at the Wells Fargo Center will be a very small minority, but you'll still get some Nets fans there. Home court advantage doesn't mean that much this year, let me tell you. The Nets do seem to be rounding into form at the right time. They closed the season on a 5-game winning streak. The Big Three had another game together. Granted, Durant and Harden did not play well, but still, they got some experience playing together. They only played 8 games together. They're going to need to play at least 16 in the playoffs, and at most 28. This is the big question that people have with the Nets. Is that lack of chemistry going to be a factor? Here's the answer. And this isn't debatable. If someone says anything else, they're wrong. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea if that lack of chemistry is going to matter. I mean, look, it didn't seem to matter against the Bulls. Harden didn't turn the ball over once. Neither did Irving. But that's against the Chicago Bulls. The Celtics are a really good defensive team. The Wizards aren't. Maybe I would rather play the Wizards. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably would. But I really don't care. Look, if anyone says to you that the lack of chemistry is going to matter, they don't know that for sure. If someone says to you that it's not going to matter, they don't know that for sure. There's no antecedent to this. A trio as talented as Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving playing just 8 games together. And then you expect that trio to lead you to an NBA title. You think of the big threes all throughout history. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh had more time playing together. Kareem, Magic, and Worthy had more time playing together. Russell's Celtics had more time playing together. Jordan's Bulls had more time playing together. But I'll say this, if you wanted to tell me that the Nets Big Three is better than any of those big threes, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. The Nets have 3 of the top 20 players in the NBA. I don't know if any of those teams I just mentioned had 3 of the 20 best players. Maybe Russell's Celtics. But that was a much different NBA. The league was a lot smaller. Magic, Kareem, and Worthy? I don't know. Bird, McHale, and Parrish? I don't know how I forgot them. I don't know. Jordan's Bulls? Definitely not. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh? Harden and Irving are better than Wade and Bosh were. Pierce, Garnett, and Allen? This big three is better. I don't know how I forgot them too. It's tough. Like I said, there's no antecedent to this. We don't have history to guide us. Look, I picked the Nets to win the NBA title, and I'm sticking with that. But I can't sit here and tell you that their lack of chemistry isn't going to be a factor. I mean, here's the thing that scares me. What's the starting lineup going to be game 1? James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, and Blake Griffin. that starting five has not started a game together this year. Literally, go through all the starting lineups that the Nets have had. You will not find that quintet. That does scare me. What if you replace Griffin with Claxton? Claxton's only started one game this year. You know who started with him? Chris Chiozza. I'm not kidding, that's actually true. And you think about the rest of the rotation, you've got Brown, Shamet, Green, and Claxton. I do think Steve Nash is gonna shrink the rotation. Could you see Mike James? Possibly. Could you see Tyler Johnson? Possibly. I think you've got a better chance of seeing James than you do Johnson. But what's the only reason you would need Mike James to play? If you need a backup point guard. The Nets' backup point guard is Kyrie Irving. See, here's what I want to see the Nets do. When their bench comes in, Nash likes to have James Harden anchor that unit. No, I don't want that. I want Kyrie anchoring that unit. Harden passes the ball a lot. And that's good when he's playing with Durant. That's good when he's playing with Irving. That's good when he's playing with Harris. It's not good when he's playing with guys like Shamet, Claxton, Green, and Brown. All due respect to those four guys, James Harden is a million times better than them. I want him taking those shots. Sometimes he gets a little too pass happy. I want Kyrie anchoring that unit. He's an excellent passer. We know that. Probably the best ball handler in the NBA, and he's not afraid to shoot. So in the playoffs, you don't need to go 10 deep. You'll see Irving take over for Harden in running the point. Then when Irving needs a break, you'll see Harden take over. You may see Durant do it a little bit. Maybe Brown will do it. Shamet can do it. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Mike James. It's nothing against James. I like James. Good player. But sometimes he gets a little too shot happy. Mike, you're like the 10th best player on the Nets. And even then, that's debatable. You don't need to shoot so much. So look. The playoffs are here. This is what we've all been waiting for as Nets fans. What have I been saying for months? The regular season is irrelevant. What matters is the playoffs. Can the Nets do what they've never been able to do in franchise history and win an NBA title? Anything less than that, let's be honest, is a failure. And I may just burn the picture that I have of Durant, Harden, and Kyrie that's currently mounted on my office wall. For the foreseeable future, you're going to get New York Yankees shows every Monday night. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that I've had more numbers on my back than a bingo card.